Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our second episode of the Female Male Perspective with my co-host, Eddie Cunningham. Hello, Eddie.
Howdy. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Real good.
Good. So what we're going to be discussing today, and these are some intense topics that Eddie and I have decided to talk about. We're going to talk about emasculation, the silent killer of relationships today. And one of the things that I wanted to start with, and something that Eddie actually asked me to start with, is what is the definition of emasculation? And we were sitting here thinking about it. So Katie actually looked it up for me. And it says, deprive of his male role or identity. And it's become kind of an epidemic in this country, and one that I think is definitely worthy of discussing the female and male views of. What do you think, Eddie?
Yeah, let's talk about manliness. Let's talk about womanliness and how they are supposed to be the way they're supposed to be. I know we're probably going to tick off a lot of feminism peoples and feminists out there that are self-proclaimed feminists, because in my mind, in my opinion, the feminist movement left what it was originally founded to be and the importance of it when it was founded. It's now become away from, and a lot of movements, even the civil rights movements, has gotten to the point where it stopped being about what it was supposed to be about and got into tearing other people down now. So you look at feminism nowadays, the way it is, it's not really about women being able to have more freedoms and what they deserve and what's rightfully theirs. And it's become about, let's tear down the nuclear family and let's tear men down as well. It's about removing masculinity. And oddly enough, because this goes completely against what feminism originally was, is it's about taking that masculinity away from men and giving it to women. Mm-hmm. Well, are you celebrating yourself being a woman, or do you want to celebrate yourself becoming a man? Like, it doesn't make sense. We are different genetically. We're supposed to be different. Yes, women can be amazing. Men can be amazing. Everybody can be amazing if they personally choose to do so. You cannot ever get ahead in life by taking from someone else. It's never going to happen. The only way to get yourself ahead in life is for you to actually do something different and move yourself forward. So it is a great topic. I'm glad that you brought it up. And you said you've read several books about this.
I have. So one of the best books out there that I read was called The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong.
Can I ask you why you even got it and started to read these books in the first place?
Because I was having problems in my relationships kind of across the board. I mean, it's no secret that I've been married 3 times. And at some point, you have to start looking at yourself and saying, okay, is my picker just off? Is it something that I'm creating in my relationships that are making them fail? What is it? Because I am the common denominator. And really taking a look at myself. And so I picked up this book because I had 3 different women recommend it to me in like a 3-week period. And I'm like, okay, Lord, so obviously this is a sign. So I picked it up and started reading it, could not put the book down. She does a beautiful job of writing it with characters in a story that you relate to. And one of the biggest things that I took away from that book was realizing that I've been emasculating men all of my life and didn't even know that that's what I was doing. It wasn't intentional on my part. It was like little things, like always interrupting men when they're trying to talk. I didn't realize that was a form of emasculation. So I had to figure that out. And I literally started calling past relationships in my life and apologizing for different ways that I created competitive atmospheres where they almost felt like they had to compete with me to be the man in a relationship and all of these different things. And I just felt so horrible that I had done that to people that I loved.
So for the emasculation was about removing the masculinity, or was it about owning the masculinity in the relationship?
I think it was a little bit of both. Most of my life, I've been the breadwinner in the family financially, which doesn't matter to me. It's never mattered to me. But apparently to the men in my life, that was emasculating in and of itself. I took control. I didn't want to be controlled. It's no secret that in my first marriage, I was very, very controlled. For 12 years, I wasn't allowed to wear high heels, change my jewelry, carry a credit card, pick my own clothes, even have a checking account, like
So
nothing.
I want to throw something out here about this right now. And I'm just going to say it. A real man can never be emasculated, period. A real man cannot have his manhood stripped from him by the actions of others. The truth is, we can't always choose what happens to us, but we can choose who we are and who we become because of what happens to us. So whenever you offered that to prior relationships, it was still up to that person whether or not they allowed the emasculation to happen. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, and it's interesting because they didn't leave me. I left them. Why? And part of it for me was that I didn't have any respect for those people. And I left because, well, one of them, it was like, you're always going to be up here and I'm always going to be down here, is what he said to me. And I'm always going to be your plus one. And, nobody even knows who I am, but everybody knows who you are because of the career that I had built.
So let me ask you this. Did you ever delve into whether or not you were subconsciously or even consciously searching out men that you could be dominant over? Because, did it feel safer for you? Did you feel like they could hurt you less if you could do it? Like, did you ever get to a point where you realized you were purposely, subconsciously even, pursuing those kinds of men and attracted to them because you would be able to do that?
It's interesting that you asked that question because I actually had to analyze that in myself. Both men in particular came across initially as very strong, masculine men who would protect me and keep me safe.
Okay, so what did they do or how did they act that made you think they were masculine men?
One of them was kind of a bad boy in his past, ex-military, like very strong in who he was, had that persona when he walked into a room, was very protective to always like make sure that he was like closest to the street and I wasn't, and like different things like that, just different ways to keep me safe. I realized later that it wasn't real, which was heartbreaking to me because that's what I really wanted in my life. I wanted a manly man. But I think over time too, I wanted him to think like a female, which is completely different. Like when I would talk to him, I'm like talking to a hairy woman, basically, like thinking he's going to be able to follow my thought process, right? Which women do all the time.
We're not great.
We talk like spaghetti.
Now, guys can learn to understand the female mindset, and we can even learn to work with it. But our mindsets just don't work. And I hate to generalize. I don't like generalizing anything.
But it's true.
God, we run gambits. We really do. There's men that are just more feminine, and there's women that do have masculinity as part. They have masculine sides to them. But yeah, for the most part, the way guys are wired. So one of the things I had done for when I was married for my wife, because I'm a fixer, I'm a go-getter, I'm a white knight, and sometimes she just wanted to vent, because that's, I guess, what women like to do is they just, hey, sometimes I just need to get it out there and go, blah, blah, so it's no longer festering inside of me. I didn't know that. I was, in my late 20s. So I ended up making a plaque that said the talking stick. And it was just an ugly plaque that I made. I gave it to her for a gift for a date night that we did. And it was this dowel that sat on these other dowels on this plaque, and it had this cheesy ivy on it, and it was stained. And it sat in our office in Nashville. And anytime she would come to me and just want to vent, she would bring that stick and either hand it to me or just kind of hold it and made sure I saw it. So then I would know, hey, I don't have to be a man. I don't have to be a fixer. I don't have to be the savior. I don't have to be any of these things. To be honest with you, I don't even really have to listen. I can just sit there and let her talk. And at the end go, and she'll be happy and walk out. I don't always suggest that. So I'm not throwing it out there for all the listeners. Guys, don't just nod your head and not listen. I'm just saying sometimes that's all they want. And the stick told me that that was the time that I didn't have to be a solver or anything. I could step out of man mode. And
counselors use that technique a lot when you're in marriage counseling. They talk about the talking stick and all of that, right? And it's kind of funny
because if you make too big of a stick, guys, if you do this for your lady, if it's too big, she'll whack you with it. So
yeah, no, you don't want it to be too big. It's got to be little, right? And maybe even cardboard.
Sure.
Cardboard would be good.
The pool noodles or something. Right.
So I went to marriage counseling with my most recent ex-husband, and the counselor recommended the talking stick. So then everything became about the talking stick for him. We come home and he hands me the talking stick, and he hands his son the talking stick, and he hands my daughter the talking stick, and then he would take back the talking stick, and we were all like, do you really want to know what we have to say? Like, is this really what you want? And my daughter did not hold back. I mean, she was like, okay, I have the talking stick. Let me tell you what I think.
Was that, so for you guys, was that like a safe space of, hey, anything you say while you're holding this can't be held against you in the court of mom and dad?
No, basically it was, when you have the talking stick, this is a safe place and you can say whatever you need to say and nobody can interrupt you or tell you that you're wrong.
Interesting. I like that.
And I began to hate the talking stick because every day the talking stick got brought out, and it was like, we're going to talk with the talking stick. And I'm like, no, we're not. We're going to talk like real people. Because he would then start doing like gaslighting and things like that while he had the talking stick so that nobody can interrupt him or defend themselves, right? And I'm like, that's not what this is for.
Well,
I'm not doing that.
You did admit, though, you did say that you had a tendency, and one of the ways you emasculated men was by interrupting them. So maybe that was his only safe way.
Mm-hmm. And when I had it, he couldn't interrupt me because he loved interrupting me too. So, you know, whatever the case may be. But here's one of the things that women need to understand, that men have 5 languages that speak to them, 5 words that speak to them. And this is what Alison Armstrong says, okay? And I found it to be very true, but you tell me what you think. And that is that men are raised, and it's innate in them, to be providers, protectors, help, save, and be the hero. And that's their language of heroes. Okay?
Yeah, I want to say yes. A lot of those things are things that I was raised to believe that that's what a man is. You know, I talk a lot about the 4 agreements and how when you're a child, you're a blank slate. And then when you learn to communicate, your parents teach you to be their version of who you're supposed to be. And, you know, back when I was being raised, it was kind of towards the end of the nuclear family. And it was, which I still think is one of the strongest forms of the family unit. But my dad did teach me, like you were saying, to walk on the street side when you're with a woman, to open the doors for them but it was never about taking away their power. It was about showing them respect. It was about showing them love and showing them, I'm there for you. I'm going to be the one that protects you. And I'll be real. I think men are mentally, genetically made to get the crap kicked out of them. And our role is to go out into the world and get the crap kicked out of us in order to provide for the family. I'm being metaphorical here, really. And that women were made to be more of the nurturing types. That's just who they are. That's just, like you said, innate. That's one of the few innate things that carried with them when we all came here to this planet. That doesn't mean that men can't learn to be nurturers, but I think that's the beauty of coming together as a man and a woman, is that we actually, on our own, we continue in the same way we were taught to be, but together we actually start learning the best traits of that other person. And that doesn't mean that you take away from the masculinity of the man and become masculine as a woman, or that you take away the feminine side of the woman and become a feminine yourself. It's about learning, okay, you are great at nurturing. I wasn't raised to be a nurturer, but I want to learn to be a nurturer. And you teach me as a man to be a nurturer. You know, I want to teach you how to feel safe on your own when you're walking outside. What other masculine things can I bring to the table and teach you? I believe it's more of living in the law of abundance than scarcity. If you believe that in order for you to succeed and gain more power in yourself, you have to take from someone else, you're never going to really grow anywhere. And I think that's, like we talked about earlier, that's the where feminism is kind of going, is it's gone away from teaching women how to be powerful, how to stand up for themselves, how to have a voice, how to let go of their fears and find their strengths. And it's become more about, let's tear the man down. Let's, that whole BS about toxic masculinity and all these other cool buzz catchphrases that people throw out there in order for them, because all these catchphrases are that they come up with as a way to try and shut someone down from speaking. They don't want a man to be able to say his opinion anymore. I'm just talking about the feminist movement as it's
I feel it's sad. It's sad.
It is.
Because men have such a critical role in our society. Men are men and women are women. And, I'm going to tick off the feminists out there too, because I believe in gender roles. I believe that the man should be the man, and I believe that the woman should be the woman. I'm the soft, nurturing type. I want my man to be the masculine man who is the provider and protector, not provider meaning more money than me or whatever. Just being a provider doesn't just mean financially. Provider means of the family, with emotions, with everything. They're the ones who kind of keep everything together. I don't want to be as strong as a man, and men can handle things more emotionally and in other ways than we as women can. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I need women to understand on the flip side is that when a man gets hurt, he gets hurt more deeply than a woman does in most cases. When a man lets somebody in and they get hurt, it hurts them to the core. And then we get men out there that are bitter and don't really want to be the man anymore because they've been hurt to the core. That doesn't mean we take them and we smash them and we twist them and we kick them while they're down. It means we take men and we build them back up to the men that they're supposed to be. And when we have women in our society that are like, well, I don't know why my husband doesn't want to come home from work. Maybe we need to take a look as a woman and figure out why they don't want to come home from work. It's not because they'd rather hang out with the boys. Maybe it's because they don't want to come home and be nagged at and told how horrible they are, and all of these different things that we've been taught as women to do to the men in our life. Maybe if we came home and if they came home and we said, hey, so how was your day? Tell me about it. What was good? What was bad? Instead of, why didn't you take out the trash before you left?
Yeah, it's, I wish I had it. Someone had once asked me in an interview, what is it that a man really wants from a woman? And my response.
You posted on this recently.
Yeah, actually I did. I recopied it. Should have pulled it up, but basically, and I think most real men feel this way, is because man, when a man's vulnerable, when he lets that down and he opens himself up, especially his heart, women, you have the opportunity to really strengthen his foundation and encourage him to build something even greater than he could ever build on his own. Or you have the opportunity to absolutely throw as many cracks into that foundation as you can. And I think it goes both ways too. Women are the same way when they're open and vulnerable finally as well. But I'll tell you what, because what does a man want? Okay, there's a bunch of physical traits guys might differ on it and throw out there. But for me, the thing that I actually want is I want a partner. I want someone who's at least my equal in some very important but very few foundations. And I want her to excel in things that I want to learn to excel at. I want her to be able to mentor me as much as I mentor her. But the biggest thing I want is I want a safe space to lay my head when I've just gotten the shit kicked out of me by life. When I am absolutely exhausted and I have no spoons left to give, I want to be able to lay my head in her lap and just have her just touch my neck, massage my neck a little, massage my scalp, let me cry, without feeling like you're going to, belittle me for crying or that you're going to lose respect for me, because I'll be real. Not a lot of guys like to admit it nowadays, because it's like, as soon as we show that we have maybe a soft spot or a weak spot, that's where people tend to attack us at. But I've had plenty of moments in my life where I laid there in the fetal position and just bawled, or I sat there on my knees with my head on my bed, just sobbing, absolutely sobbing. I've had moments where I was just completely torn down. And I know what it's like to have your partner see you like that and then just kick the crap out of you because they can, because they had been hurt before, and their job, all they want to do is feel powerful. And in my marriage, we went through a really, really hard trial, and we both handled it different ways. But she would tell me, I don't want to hear you crying. Can you please just shut up? Can you go in the other room? I don't want to hear it. Or she'd get up and leave the room. And we'll talk about some of those things more in another episode, but there was an opportunity there for us to actually grow together, for her to even carry some of the weight for a little bit, but she didn't want to. She didn't want anything to do with it. And it's excruciating to pick yourself back up all by yourself. And it's even more excruciating to do so when you're actually in a marriage where you're supposed to be doing it together. That's my take on that. But ladies, if you have a man that's willing to be vulnerable and open with you, that is an opportunity to build something amazing together, and help him fill in some of the cracks that might be there in his foundation already, and just strengthen and lift him up.
And you're right on the flip side with women as well. If women actually allow their guard to come down and be vulnerable, and that is a point where they can either be crushed or they can soar. And I think that that's partly just human nature, really, is if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and we've taken the walls down and we're literally bare and naked in front of somebody. If you're not with somebody that can really be trusted, that is where you can absolutely be destroyed.
And I don't think you could actually be truly vulnerable until you learn to be independent.
That's true.
Stephen Covey talks about how there's three types of relationships. There's dependence, independence, and then interdependence. Dependence being like when you're a baby, you're dependent on everyone for everything anyways. And then you're supposed to grow out of that and into independence, which is really like teenage and 20s. But then once you gain your independence and gain yourself and gain control and power over your thoughts and your emotions and what's written in your book of agreements, then you start to get to a point which is the most powerful type of being that you can, and that's interdependent relationships with someone that you choose to be in that with. And independent people can only go so far. So when a man says he doesn't need a woman in his life, okay, well, yeah, you'll be able to survive till you die without that, and you'll be able to take yourself as far as you can take yourself. Women say that too. Oh, I don't need a man in my life. Sure, same thing. You're only going to take yourself as far as you can take yourself. But there's something they call it about being equally yoked. So you have like oxen. You have an oxen that can pull a ton on its own, 2,000 pounds, and this one over here also pulls 2,000 pounds on its own, a ton. So you think putting them together, they'd both be able to do 2 tons, but when you put them together and they're equally yoked, they can do 4 tons.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So it's like when you have that kind of a relationship with a significant other and you're equally yoked together pulling, you're able to do 4 times the amount that you'd be able to do on your own.
Mm-hmm. 1 + 1 = 4.
Yep.
Basically. Yeah. I think that it is interesting the way that things have kind of come about where like there's still men out there who believe that the woman's role is to take care of everything at home and cook and clean and now work and do all of these things. And then there's women out there who don't believe they should have to do anything and the man should treat them like a princess. And, I want to go on vacations and I want everything paid for me. And I want, a maid and I want a chef and I want this and I want that. And it's your job to do that for me. Sorry, that doesn't make a man a man. Okay. It doesn't. And I know people in my life that have that whole theory of that's what men are for, is to make their life a pampered life. And I get really, really frustrated by that. I really do. In a true partnership, and I know you agree with this, in a true partnership of a man and a woman, everybody pitches in no matter what it is. Oh, you had a rough day at work. Let me take care of this. Oh, you had a really trying day. Let me help with this. And having that partnership in life is what kind of makes the world go round in today's day and age. Now, back in the day when you could totally support yourself on one income, okay, maybe the male role was this because it was a man's world at the time, and maybe the female role was this. But times are different now. Everybody has to work in order to survive. It just is what it is, unless we're all independently wealthy, right? I mean,
or you live in a van down by the river, which there's nothing wrong with.
There's nothing wrong with that either. But, you know, like in most people's lives, you have a 2-income family. So how do you have a 2-income family and one person is still expected to do everything over here? Whether that's the male or the female. I know relationships out there where literally they both work. And then when they come home, the husband does all of the cooking and the cleaning and everything. And the wife doesn't know how to do any of that. And I always find that interesting too. I'm like, it's a partnership. Like, it's not his job to completely do that. And it's not your job to completely do that. It's a partnership.
It's an ebb and flow. It's each day is completely different, and you've got to be able to work through it. And you know what? There's going to be days where you're both absolutely exhausted, and you're just going to say, you know what? No one's doing the dishes tonight.
Yeah.
You need to go to bed with dirty dishes in the sink. I know it's going to drive some OCD people nuts, but or you both pitch in and do it together. I mean, that's the thing, is there's no set way of doing it. But
right.
the biggest problem I see with relationships, and maybe this is getting a little bit off topic, but by the time we are looking at a marriage partner, we have been inundated with so many ideas of what a man is, a woman is, a wife is, a husband is, from when we're young. I mean, our parents first start teaching it, and then we see our grandparents or our aunts and our uncles. We start seeing these other relationships out there, and we're slowly writing, okay, yeah, I believe this, this is what I want from a marriage. And then we meet someone and we compare our books of beliefs or of agreements and go, oh, you believe like I do, and I believe like you do, and I believe a woman's role is this, and I believe a man's role is this. And then you start negotiating. And this is what most relationships are, is really about negotiations and who's the stronger one, who has the greatest need, because they're the ones that'll end up being controlled in the relationship and give up more of their beliefs, and who's strong enough and powerful enough to meet those needs and force the negotiations to go more in their way. But eventually it all becomes negotiating. This is what I think a woman should be. This is what I think a man should be. And you end up if you can negotiate well enough between the two of you, you move on to the next step, which is marriage. And then the real negotiation begins, because after the honeymoon phase, the real book of agreement comes out and goes, oh yeah, this is what I was really believing. And your whole job is to do this and be the woman that I want you to be. And then that's what most fights are over. It's not really over anything of absolute substance. It's over my version of who you're supposed to be, and you're not meeting that. And that's absolutely destroys people. Or you end up being 70, 80 years old, watching Wheel of Fortune every night, going to bed at 5 o'clock and waking up at 4 o'clock and repeating it. And you just kind of survive till you die.
Right. Which isn't enough for me.
I don't want that. No. I need depth.
So let me ask you a question. I used to make a statement thinking that this was a good thing to the men in my life. The statement was, I don't need you in my life. I choose for you to be in my life. What does that statement say to a man?
To me or to?
Well, what does it say to you first? Who's here?
I guess a lot of it would depend on where it's coming from, because you could either be saying it and you don't really mean it and you're trying to convince yourself of it, or it could be because you're trying to hurt me enough and scare me enough to give you what you want. It's all about the context of it, because, for me, growing up, feeling abandoned by my mother, who basically ran out on us when I was little. I had that kind of emptiness in me. That used to be one of my greatest fears, would be that I would lose my woman. I would lose my wife. Like, she would pull. And so she was able to actually use that to get me to change and get me to do what she wanted to do and get me to agree with her and get me to stop arguing with her. And it wasn't until I conquered it that was able to be used as leverage. So I guess it would depend on where that statement was coming from, because if if you're coming from a place of empowerment and you tell me that as an empowered man, that, hey, look, baby, I love you. I really do. And this right here, I can't have it in my life because I want to be a strong, empowered woman. And I think it's unhealthy for us. I don't have to have you in my life. I'm choosing you to be here. I want you to be here. I want to work on us. That's a totally different vibe than I don't need you. I don't need any man in my life. You're lucky you're here. And it would, does that make, I mean,
Off the head roll. Love it.
you're saying the same thing. So I guess it would depend on the context. Yeah.
I said it because I wanted the men in my life to know that I didn't need them to take care of me. I wasn't with them because I needed them to take care of me or whatever. I wasn't coming from a hurtful place. I thought it was more of a positive statement. Okay. Like I don't need you. I'm choosing for you to be in my life because I want you to be in my life. And what I realized later, especially after reading the book and after asking the men that I had said that to, how it affected them after reading the book, it was, I was emasculating them with that statement. I was telling them, I don't need you. Like, you're not going to be my provider. You're not going to be my protector. I can take care of myself. I'm choosing to have you in my life because it makes me happy.
You were definitely offering them emasculation. You know, if they chose to take it like that, it's still their choice.
Well, I've learned not to make that statement anymore because it really sucks for men to hear that statement.
Well, see, but the thing is I don't like hearing that I'm going to stop doing this because all men act like this, or I'm going to stop doing this because all women think this way and I can control their thoughts and their emotions. You are only responsible for what you say and the intent behind it. You are absolutely not responsible for the filter they wear and how they chose to receive it. Does that make sense? So you're not responsible for the fact that they felt emasculated by what you said. Even if you meant it to emasculate them, they are still responsible for allowing it to happen. So
but I'm not trying to rip men's power away by the things that I say. And if I know that it's a possibility, then that's intentional.
I want to be real with you, and this is coming from love. It is 100% ego that says I have to change what I say in order to make sure that I'm not having power over these people.
Okay. I don't understand that. So we're going to have to dive into that a little bit more in another episode.
What I'm saying is you will drive yourself crazy and you will never be effective at communication if you are constantly thinking, okay, how do I say this the right way so they take it the right way? Because then what you're really struggling with is, how do I control the outcome? How do I control this other person? That's where you're coming from. Instead of going, hey, my goal is to absolutely be a loving, kind, uplifting person to every person I meet, but then you don't take any responsibility for what they choose to do with it. Now, if a real man will come back to you and say, hey, babe, when you said this to me, I'll be real, it pricked something in my manhood that made me go, well, shit, maybe I'm not man enough for her. And I know it's my head, and I know, owning your own stuff. I know, right. But babe, talk to me about it. Where were you coming from that? And this is where not making assumptions is huge. Clarifying is huge. Mm-hmm. Communication and relationship is huge. But first, it starts with self-reflection. So if you say something to me that I feel emasculated by, I'm not going to jump and attack you and fight and get ready to defend myself. I'm actually going to go, why in the world am I feeling this way? Mm-hmm. What part of my ego did she just prick that makes me go, wow, man, that makes me feel like less of a man. Why am I feeling like less of a man? Why do I let it feed me like that? And then I'm going to come talk to you about it. Mm-hmm. Once I kind of figure it out for myself. And if I can't figure it out myself, and this is where I have to have a partner. If I can't figure it out for myself, I'm going to go to my partner and go, babe, I need you to just talk through me with this. Don't take any of it personally. Just talk through it with me. Let me kind of vent, work through it. When you said this, I know it's not your intention, babe, but I felt emasculated, and this is what came up for me. What do you think? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? That's the way a real couple, absolutely, who's really empowered, are going to handle it. But if you get in the habit of going, well, my man's going to take it personally, or my baby's going to take it personally, I need to be careful about how I say things, and I need to tweak how I say things. You start moving from true empowerment in a relationship over into manipulation of a relationship.
Well, here's what I figured out about myself in the statement that I was making. That was, almost like proof to myself that I didn't need somebody else to take care of me, that I was fully capable of taking care of myself, and that I choose for people to be in my life. How I would rather revise that for myself and for other people is, we know that I'm fully capable of taking care of myself. But what I love is that we get to do this together. And I think that that's a better articulated statement of how I really feel.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And that would be something that would make your man feel good.
Yeah. You know, and because I think that it's important to be diplomatic in how we say certain things too. I mean, because you have respect for the other person, like what you and I, you want to have respect for your partner. You don't want to just blurt out stuff that isn't respectful of the relationship, right? Because that's not healthy either. If you're that type of person that just blurts stuff out, and because it's how you feel, with no thought processes of how it might affect other people around you. You know, there's a way to communicate.
No, believe me, being a restaurant owner.
Diplomacy is key.
Well, but the thing is I also won't give up my integrity either. So
right.
I've had some customers who just wanted to be angry. We were just looking to take all of the poison they had running inside of them because of a bad day or a bad week or a bad life, and they wanted to dump it on someone else. And I'll never take responsibility for that from other people. But so if you go on, so my restaurant, Firehouse Sub and Surprise, we've got over 500 and I think we're up to 540 Google reviews. I've responded to almost every single one. I've gotten behind for the last few weeks, but I've responded to almost every single one personally. And the really bad ones, though, you'll always see me saying very similar things, which is I apologize for your experience. Absolutely apologize. That's not the experience that we strive for at Firehouse Subs. That's not the experience that is the norm for our customers. And I apologize for the experience that you had. I would like to make it up to you. I'm going to private message you and see what I can do to make sure that your next visit goes right. Thank you so much for reaching out. If it wasn't for customers like you that cared enough to let us know, I wouldn't be able to always fix the issues that we have. Thank you again. Look forward to talking to you. Then I put my name and stuff on there. Now I take responsibility for their experience that they had at the restaurant, and I apologize for it. But I don't, like I had one lady that just went off, and her story was just, it was completely made up. She was going off about how the manager treated her rudely, didn't even offer a refund, didn't offer to remake the sandwich, didn't offer. And I kindly told her that wasn't the manager, that was the owner of the restaurant. That was me.
You.
I was actually at the register, you know, and she, oh, you're calling me a liar now, and just went off. And, but every one of my responses again was, I'm sorry you had that experience. That was not my intention. But I actually had a lot of people come in after that and go, you know what, the only reason I'm here is because I read that Yelp review and it was horrible. But the way you handled it was, you know,
very diplomatic.
Yeah, very diplomatic without losing your integrity and without trying to like control and manipulate as well, which isn't always an easy thing to accomplish. But I'll never get to the point where I buy into this whole PC culture stuff where you are overly thinking. And I think it is 100% ego to think that you have so much power. You know, this whole thing about hate speech, right? Just talk about hate speech. That is one of the most ridiculous things out there. That is,
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's the new buzzword of, oh, it's hate speech. You're saying hateful things and you're hurting people. You're responsible for that. You should be punished for the angry things that you said. This whole thing, they talk about they think they're being empowering to people, is removing self-responsibility. That's the whole goal of all of these movements of PC culture, and is just the feminist movement. It's all about removing self-empowerment and giving it up to other people. And we start learning that as kids. You know, when your parents go, you make me angry, or, oh, baby, I'm so proud of you. I love you. You make me so happy. You start believing as a kid, wow, I actually have control over other people's emotions.
I have power.
Yeah, I'm the one that has power over their emotions. When I get abused out of anger, it's my fault. And we start taking that on. But then we also do the converse thing, which is we turn around and we start handing that power to other people. And it becomes a vicious cycle because we believe that when I get angry, it's not my fault I'm angry. It's not my responsibility I'm angry. It's yours because you did this and that made me angry. And when you believe that way and live that way, you completely give up your ability to actually have true empowerment, and you give up your ability to actually make changes that are positive in your life. It all starts with that inner communication and that inner agreement that I'm responsible for my emotions. And anytime I really try hard that anytime I have a reaction to something that I don't like, if it's a negative reaction, I try and delve into why I'm having that, change the agreement around so that I start having positive pro actions towards the events that happen to me in my life. So when you say, emasculating a man, you can only offer that emasculation to a man. And it's up to that man's choice, whether or not he accepts it, whether he feels emasculated. And if he does, it's also his choice to turn around and go to you and go, love, this is how I was feeling. And then how are you going to receive it as a woman? An empowered woman, what are the different ways you've seen women? How would most women handle that? If they actually had a man that would come to them and say, babe, look, I know it's not you, it's not your fault. I felt emasculated when you said that. What was your intention behind it?
So it's interesting because I have had conversations with my boyfriend where I'm like, this is really serious for me. Like, I do not want to intentionally emasculate you. So if something occurs where you feel emasculated, please tell me because I want to be aware. So when he comes to me and he tells me, I don't know why this affected me in this way, but it did. And, so let's talk about this. And we talk about it and we kind of get down to it. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I did not intend it to be that way. I appreciate you sharing with me that was something that triggered that feeling in you. And let's work on avoiding that because I don't want you to feel that way. My intention is not to strip your balls. That is not my intention. I want you to be the man. I want to be the woman. I am feminine. I love being feminine. I want to be feminine. And I want you to be the manly man that you are. And so the last thing I want to do is continue to pick that button and hit it because I know that that's what it does to you. Unfortunately, there is women out there who know that that's a button and they just keep hitting it. And I think more so in marriage. I mean, let's talk about that. When you're married and you're irritated and you know that that's a button to push, that's a tough button to keep pushing, where that it hits your man that way and you're just ding, 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 ding over and over again. Women do that to feel more powerful. Women do that to feel like they have more control. Doesn't make it right. What we really need to do is get down to the issue of why are we feeling the need to hit that button over and over again? What's causing that?
Right. Again, it's bringing it back to yourself and actually fixing what's inside of you.
And admitting that you're doing that.
Yeah. And why? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Why do I feel the need to continue to do that? What is it in me, my feelings, that makes me want to hit that button over and over and over again? There's something going on in me that makes me want to continue to try to hurt him. And what is it? And we need to get to the root of it. I need to get to the root of it. Now, there's one other part of this that is interesting. I have always been a woman that never wanted to ask for help. I felt that asking for help made me weak. So there have been men in my life, ex-boyfriends, friends that are males, like all these people that have tried to help me with different things. I will give you an example of this. I was dating a man briefly, very nice guy, great guy. I had a problem with my tire and he wanted to send somebody to my work to fix the tire. Very nice thing for him to want to do. I said no, because I was like, no, I don't need your help. It's okay. I'll figure it out, blah, 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 because I'm not used to people helping me. And I think it makes me weak if I need that help. So I said no. He's the only man that's ever broken up with me. He broke up with me because I wouldn't let him be the man in my life. And I'm like, but I didn't understand. I was heartbroken. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not a needy girl.
And he explained that to you?
He told me that I didn't understand it. He didn't go into detail about it. He's like, you have the inability to let me be the man in your life. And I can't accept that. And I'm like, but what do you mean? How do I not let you be the man in my life? And I had no understanding until I read this book. And then I'm thinking back to that relationship and I'm like, now I understand what he meant. When he wanted to come to the rescue, he wanted to help. I said no. I didn't allow him to do that for me.
Well, and I mean, that was kudos to him for being willing to step up and first recognize that in himself and then offer it to you. Mm-hmm. You know, it sucks that the relationship ended, I guess, but it was obviously a big learning lesson for you. And the fact that he set healthy boundaries is huge. I'll be real. Most guys don't know how to set healthy boundaries. And I've struggled with it. And I still am learning lessons when it comes to setting healthy boundaries because I have a passion for helping people. I like helping people. And I know we're going to talk about the white knight syndrome in one of the upcoming podcasts, but yeah, it does make you feel like more of a man when you are able to be the one that kind of jumps in and is the rescuer and whatnot. Not that you can't learn to not feed off of that anymore, which I have definitely had to learn. Because that was the one way that women reeled me in and would keep me controlled. And that was constantly, oh, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. And will you talk to me? And will you counsel with me? And will you? And I go back to the spoon theory. It was actually a friend of mine that threw that out there at me. She asked me one day through text, she goes, hey, do you have any spoons? And I sent her back a question mark. I was like, what? And she goes, spoons. Don't you know what the spoon theory is? And I said, no. And she goes, everybody knows what the spoon theory is. I'm like, well, I don't. And it's basically saying that every morning you're born, you wake up with so many spoons to give that day. And if you just don't have any spoons to give, you just got to be honest with it. And I started using that and I love it. So she'll still, when she wants to chat or needs help, she'll send me a thing. Hey, got any spoons? And I'll do a real quick self-evaluation and go, yeah, I got a couple spoons I can give.
That's pretty cool. I like the analogy. I really do, because there's days that I just don't have any spoons left. I have given all I can to everybody around me, and I am done.
Yeah.
I am mentally and physically done by the end of the day. So, well, I want to reiterate to the women out there that men have the 5 words that resonate with them, and that is that it's innate in men to provide, protect, help, save, and be the hero. And one thing that I want to say is if you don't allow them to help you when you need help, and then you go to them because you need to be saved, it's going to come with a lecture. Why did you not just ask for help when you needed help? Why do they now have to save you? Okay? Like, allow men the opportunity to help, even if they just need to listen while you vent, whatever the case may be. If you don't come to them with that, they want to be there for those types.
Really, one of the ways that we connect with the women that we love is to be able to be there for them and be their partner in things. When we have a woman, and I'm not saying make stuff up so that they feel good and you manipulate how they feel. What I'm saying is genuinely, and it goes both ways. Men got to learn to ask for help too, because again, we're macho or manly, we'll do it ourselves. But I've freaked a couple of girlfriends out because I went to them and said, look, right now I feel broken. I got nothing left. And I just need a safe space to sit for a minute. Mm-hmm. And I need your help. Will you work with me? Will you talk?
We had that conversation even as friends. Mm-hmm. You know, when I presented this whole podcast to you, that was your statement to me. Look, I'm broken. I just need a safe place. Like, I just need to sit and like, let's talk about it. And it was like, okay, I'm here for you. I'm your friend. Like, let's do this. Talk to me about what's going on in your world. And everybody deserves that safe place.
For sure. And it's
we all
that
have different perspectives.
yeah, and being able to help each other though. That's the way I want to reiterate that. One of the ways that us men connect and reach out and ask and kind of be vulnerable with women is like, hey, what can we do to serve you? And yeah, when a woman goes, I don't need that. Yeah, it kind of makes us go, well, why am I here?
That is one of those emasculating buttons that women put that they push. Like, I'm going to show my power and I don't need your help.
Yep.
Men are just trying to be helpful. Like, they're not the enemy here. And I cannot stress that enough out there to women. Men are not the enemy. So stop treating them like they are. Men are here to be our support just as much as they need us to be theirs. And they're not here to take power away from you. As a matter of fact, a strong man who is totally okay with who he is and secure in who he is doesn't care that you're a strong woman. They want to empower you to continue to grow and reach the limits that you're supposed to reach. So stop treating those men like they're the enemy and they're trying to take something from you, because they're not the enemy. Sometimes we're our own enemy who keep ourselves away from people that are supposed to be really good in our life. So that's what I really want to get out there in the message today. And women, if you are married or you're in a relationship and your man doesn't want to come home and he's trying to find every excuse in the book to not be around, there's something going on where you have become a nag, or, take ownership for what you're doing in that relationship that makes him not want to be with you. Because men who are really happy in their relationship and feel secure, feel loved and accepted, they want to be with their significant other. So it's time to take some stock into what's going on in your relationship that's pushing them away. Do you have anything to add to that, Ed?
No, honestly, I think that wraps it up really nicely.
Awesome.
Again, self-reflection. It all comes down to the only person you genuinely have any true power over is yourself. You don't have power over other people unless they willingly give it up to you, which they shouldn't. In a truly empowered relationship, both a man and the woman will independently choose to be with each other and not be either feeding each other negatively or trying to control the relationship. That's a true power couple.
I agree. And we all hope for that. And it's in our power individually to actually find it. It really is. So if you don't have that power couple around you, then don't give up hope. It's out there for you. So I say we close up. Eddie, thank you everybody for watching episode 2, Emasculation, the silent killer of relationships. Eddie, how do they contact you? How do they find you with more information?
You can reach out to me through my speaker page, Eddie Cunningham, at Facebook, or through Instagram. It's Edified Living. Find me on either of those, message me, and I'll message you back.
Awesome. And you can reach me at tinavaliant.com, as well as I do have a private women's page on Facebook that's called Women Thriving Together with Tina V. Eddie is our male sound reasoning voice that if women have questions, they can definitely shoot out questions to him on that page, but he's the only male on that page. Otherwise, it is a safe place for women to be able to talk amongst each other and, put some issues out there that we may need some support with. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week for episode 3.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.